Before I begin, there will be heavy spoilers for the Star Wars Andor series Episode 10, titled One Way Out, and all other episodes up to this point. If you haven't seen it yet, proceed with extreme caution. You have been warned. This is the Andor Episode 10 breakdown and review you have been looking for. Andor Episode 10 is out. There are still no Jedi, no Force, no Sith, no Darth Vader, and no lightsabers. These are the things most people associate with Star Wars. But not having these elements is not a bad thing. The Star Wars universe is huge, bigger than anything any of us could imagine, and the Andor series is showing us a corner of that galaxy where regular people have to make their own way. Hope where there is no hope. Faith in themselves and the fact that they will not be saved by someone with the ability to take on an empire alone. The Jedi are gone, and no one is waiting for them to come back to save them. The tone of this episode is sacrifice. And what an episode it is. If you love Star Wars as much as I do, or you're just a casual fan wanting to talk about the greatest franchise ever created, then you've come to the right place, because Star Wars is all I talk about, and I upload new content whenever I can. So if you have an interest or love for Star Wars, go on and hit that subscribe button and join this growing channel for deeper discussions, theories, and Star Wars lore. Each one of you is appreciated more than you'll ever know. Now, let's get on with today's Star Wars Andor series breakdown and review. As I said in the opening, this episode's theme is about sacrifice. As I break down the episode, I'll go into that theme as it relates to each subplot of the show. At the end, I'll give my thoughts of the episode and each one preceding it. You won't want to miss that, so stick around. The 10th episode of the Andor series opens with Cassian Andor, played by Diego Luna, and Kino Loy, played by Andy Serkis, just after the events of Episode 9 culminated in the death of Ulaf. As Ulaf lay dying from a stroke, the doctor tells Cassian Andor and Kino that no one is getting out of the prison alive. That instead of being released, the prisoners of Narkina 5 are just being transferred to another cell block where they will spend the rest of their days. Now, Cassian Andor is able to get Kino Loy to make a decision. Stand and fight with the chance of escape, or wait for his death in the prison production facility. Easy choice, right? Well, it takes Kino a minute, but he ultimately decides to join Cassian. Kino Loy's decision to make is that of sacrificing either his freedom by staying for the rest of his life, or possibly sacrificing his life much sooner by fighting. Either choice means he may have to sacrifice his life. The scene then cuts to the ISB, or Imperial Security Bureau, where we finally get to see Major Pertains of the ISB up walking around. No longer confined to a chair behind the table in the ISB conference room, he is joined by Supervisor Dedra Meero and Lonnie Jung, as they discuss what should be done with the dead rebel pilot from the previous episode. Ultimately, Lonnie Jung wins the debate. Not that there was much of a debate anyway, but Dedra Meero is visibly upset that they aren't just going to sit back and wait for the rebel leader, Anto Kreegyr. Instead, Major Pertains agrees with Jung's suggestion that they follow standard protocol in this situation and investigate the unknown ship as to not raise suspicions. This is the first time we get to see Dedra Meero lose a debate against her peers, and we can tell she isn't happy about it. In this scene, there is no outward sign of sacrifice, but that comes later in the episode, and I'll get to that in just a bit. We're then taken back to Narkina 5, where the bulk of this episode takes place. Although I mentioned that Kino Loy made a decision to fight for his freedom or die trying, this is where we get to see how dedicated to that decision he really is. As the floor becomes activated in the cell block, Kino announces that they are going to fight. There is only one way out. A voice comes over the intercom that all inmates will not speak while on program in the halls. This is to control the leak of information that 2 shifts of an entire production floor have been killed due to a prison transfer mistake. The prisoners comply and play nice as the Empire demands, biding their time. It's now time for prisoners to decide whether to go about their days as normal, with the possibility that they could live longer by not revolting, or possibly sacrifice their lives for a chance of freedom. The same decisions that Kino Loy had to present himself. When the scene changes back to Ferrix, there isn't much notable, other than Cassian Andor's mother has seemingly stopped taking her medicines. Apparently, the meds take away her appetite, and she would rather eat. Marva Andor has decided to give up her meds for food. Seems insignificant, but I'm sure this is bringing us the decline and eventual death of Marva Andor, as sad as that is. And she's the woman who saved Cassian Andor from Republic retribution when he was just a small boy on his home planet of Kenari. We're getting the scene from the perspective of Senta Kaz, a rebel fighter from the Aldani heist. At the end of this short scene, we see a man looking suspicious, watching on as he finishes questioning a bystander. I'm sure we'll get to find out who he is soon enough. If you're looking for something tying this story to the larger Star Wars universe, there are stormtroopers. It's good to see the boys in white again, isn't it? We then shift to Mon Mothma's home, where she's having a meeting with Tay Kolma, a Chandrillan banker trying to help Mon Mothma procure funds, and Davos Skulden, another banker. A seedy banker at that, able to get Mon Mothma what she needs, but it comes at a price. If she is to do business with Skulden, she will have to allow his son to meet Mon Mothma's daughter to loosely arrange a partnership. I'm hesitant to call it a betrothment because this isn't the arrangement. Davos Skulden makes that clear. Mon Mothma is insulted and has Skulden escorted out, but this leaves her in a bad place. Either sacrifice her maternal instincts by allowing the union to take place, ultimately sacrificing her 14-year-old daughter to the whims of the shady banker, or don't take the deal and sacrifice but not having the funds for the rebellion. In turn, this sacrifices her daughter's future, either way. On one hand, she loses her daughter to another family. On the other hand, if she doesn't allow it, she sacrifices her daughter's future to the unknown future of living in luxury under Imperial rule. Then, we finally get to see Luthen Rael again in the next scene, where his assistant approaches him upon what could be his return from his meeting with Saw Gerrera. She informs him that a man, not yet named, has left a sign that he requests a meeting. Luthen Rael's assistant, Clea, warns that the meeting is against her better judgment and this could be a trap. He tells her to stop wasting time, that if it were a trap, they were already caught. The relationship between the two of them seems to be that Luthen Rael is the leader and Clea is the assistant. But looking closer, this may be something different. I'll get into more of that in another video. This is another short scene that doesn't outwardly show sacrifice, but just as it is with Lonnie Jung, this will come together in the final scene. Then, the moment we've all been waiting for. Back to Cassian Andor, Melshi, and Kino Loy in the prison on Narkina 5. It's time to nut up or shut up. Coming together, the prisoners decide to act. In another video, I called the prison system ingenious. Don't mistake that for admiration. I should have said diabolical, I guess. But there is a flaw to this prison system. As the electric floors do provide a certain amount of security against an uprising, a short in the electrical system removes that security in an instant. Not having enough guards with conventional weapons proves a mistake. The floor gets shorted out and the prisoners act immediately. Taking over the prison, Cassian Andor and the others quickly gain control of the entire building, resulting in the entire prison being overrun by the inmates. Through the entire uprising, Kino Loy reiterates, only one way out. And that one way is over the side into the waters below, which is ironic. Kino Loy mentioned one way out many times, but was unable to take the way out because he can't swim. He sacrificed himself for the freedom of his fellow inmates. As he stands at the edge, he watches as they all flood to take the leap to freedom. I'm sure he'll be back, though. Cassian won't just leave him there to face the retribution, I hope. The final scene is of Lonnie Jung heading to deeper levels of the Coruscant underworld. He makes his way down until the elevator door opens to a waiting Luthen Rael. Lonnie Jung is the one who was requesting to meet with Luthen. He tells Luthen what the ISB is up to and how Dedra Meero has been tracking a rebel leader known only as Axis, who we all know is Luthen Rael. Lonnie Jung then tells Luthen he wants out. He no longer wants to be an informant and that he's a father now and has to look out for the safety of his child. Luthen reminds him of his oath to the rebellion. Lonnie then brings the theme of the entire episode together by pointing out what he is sacrificing and asks Luthen Rael what he's sacrificing. In not so many words, Luthen tells him everything. He has to remain alone, and he knows he won't live to see the end of the rebellion he has started. How does he know this? That's an interesting question. We'll get back to that in another video. Okay, that's the breakdown of each scene and how it pertains to the theme of sacrifice. My review of this episode: with each episode, the Andor series gets better and better. The intrigue, the suspense, the average person standing up when there should be no hope. For 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice. The galaxy got used to that, but now they're gone. And it's up to these average citizens to give themselves hope and have faith that they can do it alone. We all know how it turns out. The rebellion succeeds in ridding the galaxy of the tyranny that is Emperor Palpatine and his empire. Okay, for 34 years, they rid the galaxy of the tyranny that is Emperor Palpatine and his empire. But you get my point. As I said before, if you're watching this show hoping for a Darth Vader, Obi-Wan Kenobi, lightsabers, or any of the other stuff found prevalent in Star Wars stories to date, then you're looking in the wrong place. This is about regular people beating the odds and overcoming fascism and imperialism, and it's nice to see that. The biggest thing for me is that we haven't seen acting like this in any Star Wars project to date. The Andor series is well written, directed, and the acting level is phenomenal. I keep going back to it, but there are times when the characters don't even have to speak. You can tell their words and their expressions and movements. When Kino Loy is deciding what to do about his current situation, you can see on his face that it isn't an easy decision to make. But there is really only one choice and only one way out. Given that he decides to revolt against his Imperial captors, you can still see the fear and worry all over him. When they show the production floor just prior to the uprising, one man's hand is shaking. A small detail, but it's the small details that make this show the best thing to come from Disney's Star Wars era. This Andor series actually has me worried, though. Not worried for the show, but worried for future Star Wars projects, namely The Mandalorian, really. As The Mandalorian has been acclaimed by Star Wars fans united, and it being my favorite culture in the Star Wars universe, Andor sets the bar really high. The level of commitment Tony Gilroy, the actors, and the rest of the Andor production crew must be giving is phenomenal, to say the least. I can't give enough credit to this team for bringing us a compelling story with believable emotion and suspense like I've never seen in Star Wars. That's saying a lot because I'm also a fan of paranormal horror films, and we know how the suspense is in those. Yeah, there aren't many aliens in the Andor series, but if that's your biggest complaint, I'm sorry that it hasn't lived up to your expectations. But this show is an 11 out of 10 for me. With only 2 episodes remaining in the first season of the Andor series, it's going to be a long wait for me when Season 2 finally releases. It's the show I didn't know I wanted. I wasn't particularly thrilled when it was announced, but if you're not watching it because you know the fate of Cassian Andor, just remember, you knew the fate of Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader before the Star Wars prequels were made. I'll be doing more videos on this series very soon, so hit that subscribe button to be notified when I do. This is Gerald, a Star Wars fanatic, signing off, wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. Thank you all for watching, and remember, this is the way, the only way.